Thank you. I'm Ron Baker, pretty much a lifelong resident of Grant County. Served in the military, attended WSU, Big Bend. My degrees are in engineering and business. My career for the past 30 years or so has been an engineering consultant. My main customers are cities and court districts, government agencies. Most of my work is with municipal utilities. In addition to the engineering part of my career, I spent a good amount of time doing economic development in Grant County. Now, I've actually ran a utility over on the coast for the state of Washington as a trustee and manager. I have experience in construction as well as design of utilities. I've assisted most of the towns in Grant County to develop funding for their utility and street projects. So that's my essential background. Back in the 80s, we had several hits. One of them was the closing of the UNI Sugar Factory, Country Gardens in Warden, Mount St. Helens, and there were other problems, but we lost a lot of beet fields in that process. The industry died here locally. So there were a lot of people in Grant County that put in a lot of effort through what we called economic development groups. And we went after a second economy, and that was industrial. Prior to the 1980s, the sole economic community was the farmers and the processors. We depended on what we could do here to make the best we could, but outside influences really impacted our economy at different times. It cycled. The idea of locating an industrial-based economy here was thought to provide an equalizing of the economies, and I think that has happened to some degree. Our PUD played the biggest part in our attracting new industry to Grant County, and primarily it was because of the lowest rates that we could offer for electrical power. And it appeared back in '80 that we had plenty of power. Today, we have to buy power outside of Grant County. We have to work with markets to make sure we can meet the demand of our local customers. The rehab of the dams down here is putting a tremendous burden on the financial stability of the Grant County PUD, as well as the FERC obligations that we have to.
Time.
3 minutes.
Well, that was mid-sentence.
Man plays by the rules.
Well, I'm Bob Bernd, I'm the incumbent. I'll take all the blame for everything that's wrong at the PUD. The only incumbent for the PUD here tonight. And I want to thank the Republican women and Freddie for hosting this event. It's an honor for me to be here. I'm just completing my first term. It was a 4-year term. I think we've done a lot of good things. I'm going to tell you what those are. But I would hope that you would know that this is a big and complex and complicated business, and we can't do everything we would like to do in 4 years. But I did make some promises 4 years ago, and I kept those promises. And I want to tell you what those are. I would tell you a little bit about myself, but just prior to that, I have a 40-year history of community service. I've served at the national, local, regional levels. I have cards over on the table that explain all of that, but I want to tell you the promises I made and the promises I've kept. When I came to the commission 4 years ago, it was dysfunctional. You had staff that was afraid to come in the room with the commissioners because they were going to be personally attacked. You had commissioners that wouldn't speak to each other. It was just a terrible situation, and one of the reasons I was convinced to run. Since that time, I have worked and used my leadership experience, and while it's not perfect, we have vastly improved the relationship among the commissioners, and during my term, we actually formulated and passed the governance policy. This is something we should have had years ago, but we have used it. We've used it for discipline among ourselves. Boy, I can't see very well either. I said I would use my business experience, 40 years in small business. Holy cow! 40 years in small business to help bring efficiencies to the PUD, and we've done that. We've cut our budget this year $28 million. We've come with we're doing cooperative ventures with Chelan and Douglas and other utilities, and we found many others. So I could go on. We restructured the irrigation rates, made them simpler. I said I would do that. I said I would help restart the fiber program. We came up with a successful program that is meeting its obligation. We are meeting all our M&O costs plus the depreciation on the equipment that we're currently investing in. So I just want to stress there are not very many politicians. I don't consider myself, I've only done this once, but now I are one. There aren't many politicians who can say they kept all their promises. Thank you.
Thank you. We do have a question on time here, ladies and gentlemen, and so thank you for abiding. So we'll start with our first question.
And you get 1 minute now to answer, each of you.
Who are Citizen for Public Power by name?
Well, I can't tell you all the members, but essentially the Citizens for Public Power are a local group of people. The Hansons are involved. Smith is involved. There's just quite a few people involved in public power, Citizens for Public Power.
I don't know. They are a PAC, and PACs are required to file public disclosure commissions. They have not done that, so I don't know who supports them. I'm suspecting Hanson's because it's their equipment that's all over. But, you know, that's my issue is my campaign, not their campaign. I would hope that it were run honestly and according to the law.
Thank you.
The first question is a repeat. With rapid improvements in technologies that eliminate the need for hardwire or fiber, why keep investing in antiquated technologies?
Well, you know, I was asked this question a lot when I first became a commissioner and prior to that, and I have become convinced that fiber is not an antiquated technology. Hardwire fiber is going to be essential. I've been assured by Microsoft and Yahoo and others that is the future, and there will be wireless technologies. Right now our grant would call for a 200 megabit, is that right? Speed, which is very fast. The fastest we have wireless right now is 20. So there are new technologies, but the things that will come with fiber are unknown at this time. I truly believe this is the broadband highway of the 21st century will be essential for us to compete and for our kids to prosper here at home.
During the last 4 years, the Commission has pushed hard for fiber installation without regard to the cost. 4 years ago, I was asking how they could justify installing the fiber system, how they would pay for it. There has been a write-off in our PUD budget of the first expenses of the fiber. This coming build-out of the fiber is a mix of fiber and wireless, and I promoted wireless back 4 years ago, and I'm glad to see that they've finally come around, but we're still not in a good financial position on fiber and broadband availability. Now, I know that it's important for Grant County to have the equipment. Our businesses need it. A lot of people enjoy it for personal reasons, and it is the future, just plain and simple. But the PUD needs to resolve how they're going to pay for it.
Okay, what would happen if we didn't do a rehaul on the turbines and the costs that would be incurred if they failed due to not doing a rehaul?
The turbines are over 50 years old. They've been running nonstop. The turbines and generators have been running nonstop for over 50 years. We're starting to see increased maintenance costs now, and I think you can imagine a piece of equipment you might own that after 50 years you need to make some investment in that piece of equipment to bring it up to current standards and to avoid delays. I think we had a generator go out and it cost us in the hundreds of thousands of dollars per day that it was out. It might have been $1 million. I don't know. It's a lot of money when we cannot generate power with the generator. And it could eventually lead to dam failure. So we are obligated by our license to replace those and to do it with fish-friendly turbines. And we're also getting 15% increased efficiency with the new turbines and generators. So we're getting the equivalent of a new unit with each dam.
There's not much I can add to that. The best thing that's happened is the fish-friendly part of the turbines. I've heard that there's a 95% survival rate on the test programs. That's just excellent. As Bob said, there's a small increase in the efficiency, and that efficiency increase may be part of the alternative power commitment we have to make to the state for I-937. So rehab of the turbines and the generators is essential to the operation of producing power. We just simply have to manage how we do it.
Kyle?
These are good questions. How do you decide which areas to expand fiber?
Well, I have to admit, I don't think we did it very well the last couple of years. We picked areas where our take rates were not up to snuff, and we need the take rate to make our finance plan work. So that was a decision I'm going to involve myself a lot more in the future. If we get the grant, which we're really hopeful for, we'll see what the strings are attached to it. If they're too big, we sure won't take it. But I will be a lot more involved to make sure that areas where it's built out are areas where we suspect we'll get a good take rate and we get a lot of passings for the buck.
The take rate is where people have the ability to hook up to the fiber. In other words, it's down their street and they can drop a line right into the business or the home. The problem with the program was the original study, which predicted a 78% take rate, and it's only about 27% now. And that was based on a flawed study that was done. There's currently a new study, if you will, it's not a very big one, to determine what to do with the rest of the build-out. It's going to be flawed as well because of the way the questions were framed that people asked. I think there was about 450 people that were queried as to whether they would participate in the broadband. I don't think the take rate is going to be as high as what's being predicted. Therefore, we won't have the revenue to self-sustain, and you, the electric ratepayer, will be making up the difference in cost.